So, quick question before I get started. How many of you use some kind of agentic coding like Cursor, Claude Code, those? All right, so this will everything I'm going to talk about here is I'm using Claude Code as an example, but it can be applied to pretty much any AI workflow. Similar to LangChain, like any kind of macro AI workflow, it's actually very accessible to kind of set it up in Claude Code. Let's see here. So I'm going to be walking through. It's just how I write code. It's focused on software development, but it's more broadly applicable. For the last couple of months, I switched from Cursor to Claude Code as my primary, so I can do 95% of the time, and then pop in the Cursor when I want to do something more just neighborhood or specifically targeted. Snapshot kind of right now. It's a progress, and it is always changing. And this is very specific to my way of working. So what I've shifted to, like I know a lot of people like to check every change that the agent makes as it makes it, and I like to have a lot of work all at once in a big way. So really, I'm trying to get this philosophy behind why I'm doing this stuff, so it's broadly applicable. My personal setup for how I do issue tracking is I use Linear for planning, like roadmap management, bug tracking. So I'll show everything I'm going to show if you use Jira, whatever else. I use a tool called Taskmaster for breaking down a feature into small tasks that the agent can then do so that I can control what's going on and how to do very small specific things that I can so it doesn't stray too far off track. And secret weapons, I think, of Claude Code are custom commands and subagents. So I'll use these, and I'll show examples of custom commands, but is you can prompt to basically program out an entire workflow, like similar to what was showing when showing us these graph workflows. We have multiple steps, and it calls out to tools and does all these things. We can write those in Claude Code just starting a prompt, and it works incredibly well. Like it'll follow the process, and it'll just write a prompt, but it just does it. It's remarkable. Sub-agents, which also similar to what I'm talking about, they write commands to do an overall process, like my app. And I can sub-agents to handle very specific tasks. They're like technical specialists that know how to do something really well. And for those who have dealt with context management and Claude Code, the really nice thing about sub-agents is they have their own context. So what that really is like, if you have a sub-agent going out and like auditing a security algorithm, doing a full audit of your base, it's using its own context, and it doesn't consume all of the context of the main Claude system, so you can run for a lot of labor before it starts going stupid. What happens is, when you're other Claude on the context, it starts to drift. And then once it gets to compaction, like compresses all of your context to make space for you, it gets a lot more dense. It just kind of summarizes everything in a very simple way. So, like my it's just never compact. It's an example is this is like basically just I just have step one of this, step two of this, and I just write out a process and it follows it. And then I say we use the technical researcher agent to research this topic, and then pass your research findings to the technical researcher agent. Right? I just write it out like that. And, so to build out a big language workflow and write a bunch of Python code for, I just now come over and create a prompt. Very well. And these small things. Like I wouldn't use this to have a production system because this is running completely on my laptop. So I use this for a lot of just local operational tasks like software development. I'll define these sub-agents. This one has a super long prompt. This is a technical writer and it describes the writing style and everything else. Anyway, I have a whole slew of these. My custom commands and call and put to work and just tasks out to.
Have you, the sub-agent that produce one of the editor to produce the content? How do you create the sub-agent with that conditional thinking?
Sorry. The way I do it is I just have my sub-agent output specific message. I want you to change these things. And this command is smart enough to understand, oh, it did not approve it, therefore I should go back. Yeah. I actually like this one I actually saw stop after 3 times. But keep saying that because otherwise it could get said. So that's good. Yeah, it's good. That's actually one of the other nice things about set agents is like if I have a non-custom command and I ask it to approve its own work, it should be like, yeah, fine. Then as soon as I split it out, you call sub agent, you say you are now the approval of this work. It's actually going to be critical and review actual feedback. So that's like it's nice little site right there.
I didn't know that, and I've used a lot of like Excel, but I didn't know it's had capability. So when I think about web I that's looking for some types you can do. And the same thing for your file about creating special ones.
It's like conditional branching. It's really cool. Yeah, you get a whole logic for it.
Yeah, you get different statements like, oh, it's a form if I just write for a text. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Use sub-agents. How much regulation to generate? Because that's like one of the things I'm trying to still like Claude Code. How much should I be free over?
So I'm sure I can get into that. What you're saying, where like I first switched to Claude Code, I want to solve this, scope thing. It's like you want. Okay, that's where I started. Okay, got it. And then I was like, all right, well, let's solve this like PRD, like a product requirements document describing everything I want to do. This thing, and it's still like make a lot of changes all over the place, and a lot of times I would come back and say, this is not one of the like I have to go back and change. So is that what you're getting at, or are you getting at something else? Sort of like,
how can I make it more completed? I want to know what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Go be as much as you can. The lines of code changes, whatever. Like a fully fleshed out feature.
Yeah.
It's, I just use it to 300 lines. So every year, now I'm print.
Yeah, I haven't done a massive change. I'll walk through exactly what I do, but like some grades on it here in a moment to show you what I do. But it's not like, I don't have to do that. I very much try to get it very focused on exactly what I want it to do. The change. Go ahead.
So your usage of sub-agents is today, you're trying to do this. You have your tasks and you can basically swap it off. Each one day, you look at the task.
And I only the question. The question is, some my uses of something to say, so this is a task I want to do, and then I spawn off a sub-agent to go do tasks. For that, I want something that's very specialized and focused, right? Like a security exactly what I want to use a sub agent because it's like they have a lot of very specific instructions of what to explore and what types of things to explore or whatever. Well, I don't want to just create a massive, like if I'm in the middle of a learning process, I don't want to put like an enormous bump of having security audit on that. But if it's something like go look at these 5 files and add this, these markdown files and add font matter to them and then they can change. I'll just put to the main command itself. It's only if I have something very specialized, or if I want to or if I want to, check the context clear, not consuming all of my Claude Code session with this command. So an example of that is I have a sub-agent that does playwright automation. So when I have my Claude, I have a command that will be like, test all the changes that it's really we'll click through it together, test plan, and then the test through the web app. Actually, like my sub-agent because information, communication back and forth between playwright, which is what something that I used to really like. It's a lot of information that backs back and forth. It's taking screenshots, and then it's evaluating the screenshots, and it's looking at like the error logs or whatever. And that's just a lot of context that's building up in the session. So I use a separate setting for that just because it has its own context. So it's going to fill its memory with all this stuff, but then it's just going to give a concise summary back to the main broad process that's really my command. So that's how I'm using like subagents because I don't want them to fill up my entire cloud session.
So you feel like the context separate. So like if my test here, it's going to take the thing, you think that, oh, right.
Yeah. And if it doesn't match what it's supposed to match, I'll give a summary back. What's wrong? I'd give you a very concise summary of the issue. But that way, the main process doesn't have to really have really much information in its context, if that makes sense.
So it's like very
yeah, by default, they don't start with no context. You have to pass it the context. And that's the trickiest part is like trying to get the information it needs to solve the problem you want it to solve. So that one thing I think is it does get a little tricky, like to make sure it has, you have to pass, this is getting into the weeds, but like you have to pass it the right context for it to do what it needs to do. And that can get a little tricky to get it right. But once you do, now it could go out and do 1,000 different things and just fill up a ton of context. And it just gives you your answer back. And your main Claude process has just now consumed a little bit of context. In subagents, there is here, I'll go back here. Specifically, I've shortened this description here, but this description front matter parameter is basically defining its API to the callers. So the actual description on this one was pretty long, and it basically says, here's how you call this, here's what information you provide for the subagent to work effectively and whatever. And what's cool is if you go into Claude Code, there's a, here. And Claude knows how to do that. So if you create any custom command and you say call this agent, it knows to say, all right, well, let me look at the agent. What information is expecting? Okay, great. Let me pass the right information to it. It just magically happens. Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, let me show. I mean, here, let me hop in here. So
Actually set that whole orchestration of Claude Code does allow them to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And what you specify, here's an example of an actual description. And you can see like up here, that description is super long. And it's basically like, here's ways to communicate with me as a subagent. It's giving examples and it's basically giving you an API specification for how do you talk to this subagent. And just once you then drop this file into this agents folder, it is now available for Claude or any commands or anything to call and use as an agent. Yeah. Sorry, say that again. Yeah, it's just the fact that you drop it in the .claude/agents folder. It is now an agent available for you to call from within Claude Code or for Claude to decide to call. And a lot of times, and it'll oftentimes just use these. It'll just be like, hey, I need to solve this problem. Oh, there's an agent that searches context 7 docs. It searches for technical docs. So I'm going to go ahead and use that agent to get the docs I need. Yeah, pretty sweet. Go ahead.
Also, agents, consider using Cloud. And then I'm just right. Well, as some agents.
Yeah, you could. I mean, it also support. I use MCPs all the time, like Playwright's an MCP that I use for browsing the web or whatever. Like you could use MCPs just like anything else. So I would assume that if you wanted to connect with some external tooling, you just use an MCP for that.
Such as like LangChain's SWE, if you wanted to have like a library specific return back of what's most important.
Yeah, that's right. You could use an MCP to connect to those LangChain agents that you were talking about. Yeah.
So here you have, say, naming is pretty self-explanatory, description and self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But the rest that you have, what is that?
This is just the prompt. So this is just like defining any other prompt for like, here is the definition of your agent identity, and here's how you do your job. So it's just prompt engineering, really. I mean,
And the difference from MCPs is just only has prompts, and MCPs have tools.
yeah, and MCP is you're gonna have some really specific API specification, or the specification of how you interact with it, and yeah, and this is just something that runs within Claude Code inside of the environment. So like if you want to set, I think the best way to learn about it here is come into Claude Code and type agents, and then it'll say, hey, here are your agents. You want to create a new agent here? Where do you want to do it? I want to put it in my project. You want Claude to generate it? And then you just say generate with Claude. You give it a description of the agent you want to create, and it'll generate one for you with the appropriate description and everything else. And then just start using it. Like that's I think the best way to learn about them. And I find that usually what it creates is pretty verbose, and I go in and just make it a lot more concise because I like to carefully craft what I have my agents doing. But
How do you keep track? If you have too many agents, people don't get confused.
yeah, I don't think they've really solved. It's a very new thing. They haven't solved it well. I know with commands, like you can namespace the commands, like custom commands, by putting them in these folders. So I have a PM folder for all my product management commands. So I can go PM, and so you can namespace them. So I have like a, create PRD PM command, which I'll show here in a second. They don't do that for agents yet. It's just code organization and just keeping them, and also like if I hit slash and there's like 250 things show up and I'm like, which one did I call that again? Like what is that? And I can just be like, oh, /PM, and it'll give me the namespace of all of
But
it.
it's not for, his question was about that problem where you have like 20 tools.
Oh, yeah.
I'll figure out.
Oh, got it. Yeah, you're talking about it's getting confused. Yeah, I don't actually know how it registers these agents. So I don't have the answer to
Well,
that.
like you have agent 1, then you give a description,
Yeah,
and by the time you get to agent 20,
yeah,
descriptions kind of get fuzzy, like they're similar.
yeah.
How do you track that you have agents that
You mean so for Claude? Well, for me, for my usage, I just call the agents by name. But for Claude, yeah, I don't know how it handles that. I don't know. Like I don't know if it has the same problem that like it has with MCPs, where you get too many of them. It's probably the same problem, I would guess. So I guess which is a good point. You probably want to only create ones that you know you need, right, and not just go willy nilly and create a million of them.
Test where all your custom commands if it's so that it breaks up the project it passes it notes reference your workflow parts and actually is that
Let me come back to that because I'll just do a real quick walkthrough of the workflow and then I'll get to that question when I get to it. So let's see. What the heck? All right, here we go. So basically, when I'm trying to sync, all I'm trying to do is sync context and give Claude as much, of an understanding of what I want, which is what is in my brain, and then what is in the code base, so it knows how to build the right thing. That's what all of this is about. It's really just like we were saying. It's just about like it can take a million different paths. So I try to eliminate on the front end. Like it's like even for something as simple as provide the ability to delete posts, there are so many decisions you can make. Like, do you do a soft delete? Do you allow undo? Do you need confirmation? Whatever. And so, like, I think of it like there is a massive graph of possible ways to implement this thing. And so the more I can do on the front end to like be specific about it, like to narrow that down and cut off all the wrong paths, I can keep it on track better. And then the second thing I do is getting into Taskmaster, and I'll show it here in a moment, but then I try to like, once I've defined what I want to build really well using my commands, then I'll use Taskmaster to break it down into small pieces. And I'll show that here in a moment. So let me first start, like the first thing I do is to try to give Claude, I have what is it? It is, come over here to my notes. Oh yeah, build context. Okay, so I have a build context command. And I'll say learn the front end and back end. All right, so I have a custom command that is attempting to solve this problem. So this is the first thing I usually do is like just get Claude up to speed on the part of my code base that I'm about to work on. So it has in its memory, in its immediate memory, it's got in its context a familiarity with the specific parts of the app that it's going to go start editing. So it knows how to how to make the changes. I do a few things for this. Like what I'm showing right now is a custom command called build context that's running here. And it's like, looking at the task, it's going to go through the code base, and it's just basically just exploring and learning about what it needs to learn. I have other things I do for that, but I'm not going to get into them right now. And then, so that's the first thing I do. And by the way, I have a bunch of tools I use, and I'll like use them depending on the situation. Like I have a tool, I'm not going to show it here because I don't have time, but that will like go into my linear ticket. Here, let me open up. We'll do this ticket. So I have a tool that, then this is all about getting very specific about what I want Claude to build. Like I can run a custom command to say, refine this linear ticket, and it'll read it. It understands the code base, and then it'll interview me, and it'll ask me questions like, well, for this, for these tags that we're going to add to prompts, like, do you want to have a character limit on them? Do you want to allow special characters like Unicode characters? Do you want the user to be able to one-click delete them? Like, how do you? So it's going to ask me clarifying questions and then fill out my requirements, so that now I'm sort of narrowing the region of darkness and really honing it in on what I want it to build. So sometimes I'll use that. I have another one that would be way too time-consuming to run right now, but I've like sometimes if I'm like trying to build something new, but I really don't know how I want it built, or how, like, there's different technical paths you could take. I'll use this architecture recommendation, which is a command. It's a custom command, and it'll spin up multiple architects, like software architects, that will explore different ways of solving this problem technically. They will each give back their recommendation to the main command, and it's going to review the recommendations from its like fleet of sub-agents that have spun off. It's going to look at what they each recommended. It will come up with its own recommended solution, and then it just explain it all to me and show me. It's like, hey, here are the options I looked at. Here's what I think we should do. What should you do? And then I'll take a look at those recommendations and be like, yeah, it looks great, and it'll update the ticket. Or I'll be like, no, I actually don't like that. Here, come up, change this and this and this, and I'll give it feedback, and we'll just work together. So like what I'm doing is I'm getting these sub-agents to like interview me or work with me or give me suggestions, and it's like a collaborative thing that I've set up so that I can very quickly go through the product requirements or software architecture part of the process. And again, everything I'm trying to do is just get as much clarity on the front end, so that when I unleash Claude Code to be like, go to town on this feature, like we're on the same page as much as possible by the time it does that. And then I'll do, here, let me come back, generate PRD, which I'll go ahead and generate it. This is my ticket. I've got this really simple little app here. Let me see if I have it up and running. It's a little prompt management tool I put together yesterday for the purposes of demonstration. It's just a dumb little tool. And I have a feature, which is I want to add tags to be able to these prompts. So this is a list of prompts with descriptions, and I want to be able to add tags to them. So so now it's up to speed. The last command I ran was build context. So now it's up to speed on my code base. And then I'll go PRD, create PRD, and then I'll pass in the linear ticket number. What is this? DRI 166. Okay, so now what it's going to do, so there's another command I use. So now it's up to speed on my code base, and now I'm saying, okay, now give me a plan for this particular ticket, and it's going to use MCP to like go fetch the details from linear. And again, this could be Jira or GitHub issues or anything else. It's going to identify, and this is part of that Q&A, like if there's anything that's ambiguous, like where anything that's unclear about the solution, it's going to then ask me questions. Oh yeah, I can move this. By the way, if you can't hide that, I'll move the bottom up so it's not covered. Are you good? And then it will ask me targeted questions if there's information that is missing. And again, this is part of that conversational thing. So like it's done a gap analysis, and it's like, hey, here's what's clear to me. Here's what's not clear to me. Will you answer these questions? And it's got 3 of them for me. And I'll just come up with stupid answers here, like should tags be displayed? Yes. For tag component, individual entry, and then no validation. Anyway, all right, so I just answered its questions to clarify my requirements, and then it's going to go create a product requirements document for me. So now it's like we've gone through, and I could use any of these tools by this point, and it's going to go ahead and create this. Let me flip over to my IDE, and there will now be in my, where is it here? In my docs folder, PRDs. And so it'll take a second here. Okay, so it may run for a second. So I'll come back to the workflow. So it's generating the PRD right now. And then after that, once I have my PRD generated, then I'm going to go in and generate taskmaster tasks. Now, just as while it's generating the PRD, the quick intro to taskmaster for anybody who hasn't used it, like I know a lot of people who have different solutions for this. So it's just one way to solve this problem. But what it does is it takes the product requirements for a feature, and then it breaks it down into a set of discrete tasks. And in the latest release, it's aware of your code base. So like they've just updated it. So it'll actually go scour your code base, learn about your code base as well. So you've already got your Claude agent that knows about your code base, and then your taskmaster is going to look at the requirements, which should already be defined within the context of your code base. Like it should be the right solution. Go ahead. Oh, it does not use the agents. It's just a third-party package, so it uses its own set of LLM calls and its own prompts, and it's its own toolkit to do that. But you could set up your own, if you wanted to do one that uses your agents, you could set up your own custom commands to replace taskmaster. And like, because I know some people in the group, they do this, but they just create a checklist and they don't use taskmaster. They break it down into a checklist and.
Feature and I have and sub-agent.
Yeah. Yeah, you could totally do that. I don't do that because I just once I get the tasks already dialed in, I just let Claude just go implement them. And I just use raw Claude code, just say, go build these tasks. It just edits my code just like it normally would. So, but you could absolutely have it do that. Yeah. How about you?
Could you expand a bit more? So I see in one place you use VS Code, and that's where your project source is.
Yes.
You using Warp.
Yeah.
Cloud Code. So why not use terminal with VS Code if you have all in one spot?
Yeah, so I could throw Claude up here once it loads. Yeah, I actually was doing this before. So this is kind of the way I think a lot of people use it, just in the VS Code terminal. I just like Warp. This works great too. So yeah. There's no other than I just like the UX and I like being able to do things. I've learned to do things quickly in Warp.
Curious. Cost optimization taking a lot of time to make all the calculations, actually, all is not whatever, right? Like, how do you think about it? Like, does this cost a lot? Or how do you think about it?
You mean in terms of credits or my time? Oh, that is an excellent question. And I am on the Claude Max plan, the Claude Code Max plan, which I'm paying $200 a month, but it gives you virtually unlimited credits. Yeah, and I should have clarified that on the front end. Yes.
You'll find the limits.
Yeah. What's that? No, I haven't. I just. No, I haven't. I stopped. If I hit my, you don't get unlimited credits, you get a lot. And then they do it in 5-hour chunks. So if I run out, like it resets every 5 hours. There's also a weekly limit, but I haven't hit that yet because, but like, like if I hit my limit before the 5-hour chunk is up, which has happened a couple of times, I'm like, all right, I should probably take a break anyway because I'm clearly.
That's in the race right now. Is that already coming after the change limits?
Yeah, it is after the change limits. I haven't hit the
You're
limits.
doing it the right way. When this first came out, I was just testing it out, and I left it alone, went to lunch, came back, and it was like $12 later.
Yeah.
I was like, hold up.
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked that question. Make sure you're on a plan. You're not paying by the question because everything I'm doing here is very token heavy.
I know, like I was heads down for a little bit, and the CC usage NPM is really handy because you can actually see what it would be equivalent if you're paying for APIs. And my CC usage was like almost $4,000 a month, and I was paid the $200 for the 20x plan. I was using Opus a little too much, but
Oh, wait.
it was cool. Like it was worth that $200.
Yeah, here's my.
It made it drop my API usage down from I think I was like 1,200 the month before.
When you run CC usage, how far is it looking back? Is it like a month?
30 days.
30 days. Yeah. So I've spent $2,500 worth of credits, but I've only paid $200 for my monthly subscription.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
yeah, they're subsidizing it like crazy. I don't know. So they're using.
By Claude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Claude.
Well, right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The big caveat to everything here is it assumes you have credits on a plan and you're not going to get blown out by actually having to pay those fees. Let me try to. Sorry, one sec. What's your question?
On your agents and your workflow, kind of go back to that for a second. I've been using a very similar kind of methodology, or I was for a little while before I pivoted. And one of the reasons I kind of avoided it or moved away from it is because no matter how granular I got, no matter much I decomposed, I would find that after a time, I would go back and have my QA agent go back and do a comprehensive review of all my code. And he would find out that even though I was using a micro step approach, having an architect build it, having the specific developer develop it, having a QA agent check it.
Yeah.
What I was finding out was the developer was actually stubbing everything and the QA agent was just rubber stamping.
Yeah.
So we had to get into more complicated hooks and workflow to around that, but it still was an issue.
Yeah. So the question is like, or the experience you shared is that like you tried using an agent, like a developer agent and then a QA agent and then an architect agent and just have them all collaborate. I don't use that approach when it comes to actually building the code. I just let Claude do it all and using this approach. So I use agents for like the playwright, like
about within Claude. This is all Claude agents I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I'm just like, when I go say, well, I'm not quite there yet in my demo, but when I just say, go do the next task, it's just Claude doing the work. So I'm using these sub agents for like planning and other things, but then when it's actually writing the code, it's not kicking off the work.
Well,
the sub
I got
agent.
away from that because he was stubbing everything.
It was stubbing. Okay, so that didn't work well. So your experience is trying to use the sub agents to actually write the code.
My experience
did not work well.
More than he does anything.
Okay, got it. Yeah. That's good. Good feedback. Yeah. So, sorry, you had a question? You're good? Okay, cool. All right. So, okay. So I've generated the PRD. Let me just flip back over to here. And where is it? Here. So it's created a PRD and, I'll usually scan through this and look and make sure I agree with it. The main thing I typically look for is, I find that oftentimes I look for like scope creep or anything else like that. And then I look to see, I always have it spit out milestones, at least in my workflow. And I make sure that those make sense. Like I like it to build something basic that I can test, so I can then verify it. And then the next milestone adds on to it. So I'll review that. But anyway, let's pretend I look through it and it looks good. Then I have my taskmaster, generate taskmaster tasks. And then it's going to go find the most recent PRD and it's going to start creating these tasks. And let's see here. In fact, let me tell it, it's going to try to do generate tasks with taskmaster. It's analyzing the PRD. So it's going through this process of generating the tasks for me. And I can also, taskmaster, the way it works, let me flip over to a command line. I can also just do it through the command line, like tm list. It is a terminal program it's a native terminal program. So you can look, I don't have any tasks listed here, but you can just say, show me this task or generate tasks from PRD and you can do it all from the command line. I just have my agent do it just because it'll do a full workflow for me. So it's currently going through and generating or about to generate the task with taskmaster for me. And, once it's done, I'll stop this. I won't let it. It can also what's kind of neat about Taskmaster is it's smart about doing things in the right order where they build on each other, the tasks build on each other. And then it'll also, if you have a complex task, it'll break it down into subtasks. Again, to try to get it down into like the micro, smaller tasks that it can go work on. So let's see if this finishes up here. Then I'll just have it start working on one feature. I won't make y'all sit through a coding session. Yeah, the way it works is Taskmaster specifically, it's just a package and it creates tasks in a JSON. So it's just sitting in your project. There's no database, there's no like SaaS offering or anything like that. It works on the local file system, which is nice because LLMs understand files.
And I usually interface with it use an MCP, but you can also use the command line interface to interface with it. And you basically just call commands on it. Like parse PRD is a taskmaster command, which will read in the PRD and it will do a bunch of work and it'll research your code base and then it will spit out the tasks that it thinks that make sense. And hopefully this finishes up soon. Let me flip. Oh.
Itself as a Claude MD.
No, it's just a separate package that you call through an MCP. Yeah. And you just have to point it to your PRD, to your product requirements doc, and then it'll read that and then just kind of explore your code base a bit. I don't know, maybe it's using Claude MD and referencing those.
When you open up Claude MD.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I don't think Taskmaster is necessarily using Claude MD, but this Claude MD is provided by Taskmaster so that your Claude knows how to use Taskmaster. Yeah, but I've set it up different ways where this is actually kind of redundant because I have it set up as an MCP, so I could probably just delete it and just use the MCP definition. All right, so let's see here. All right, this is taking a very long time. I don't know why. Usually it's usually pretty fast. Let me move on. I'll just walk through the rest of the workflow because I think we're over time. What I do is then I once I have these smaller tasks, then I just use Claude to test or to do the normal stuff you would do, right? And then I like to do the code review in the Git window, or in the Git interface here. So as it's spinning up changes, as it's writing code, I'll just review the changes as they come in. Once I like them, it's just a normal. One thing I do too is between each task, I'll stage the changes so I get wait, why is this not showing up there? Okay, this was updating a little slow. Anyway, so then I'll stage my changes and review them. Then I'd say the last couple of things that I'll just mention is I do have some custom commands, like there's a code review command that'll look for like code complexity, duplication, readability issues, maintainability issues, those sorts of things. And it does a very good job of highlighting, just giving me a to-do list of things and I can decide what I want to clean up. There's another one, like I'll see if I can, while Taskmaster is trying to run here, let me open up another. Here's a little thing that I just discovered in the last week or two. This is getting into the like Claude Code nerd weeds a moment, but you can fork a context, right? So like if you've built up, it's all about context. So if you've built up a very good context in your Claude Code instance where it knows about the part of the code base that really matters, it's up to speed on everything it needs to know to do this feature, I can then copy the session ID. I've got like a custom status thing down there. So every instance has a session ID and I can come in here into a new window and say Claude -- resume and paste in the session ID. And it's going to, this is a new Claude instance, but it's picked up the conversation where that other one is. So you've basically forked the conversation. So now I can go do something else. And if I wanted to, let's see, test recent changes, if I wanted to like just spin up another task on the same context, you can do it that way. So there's some, cool tricks like that you can do. And what this one does, this test recent changes, this is the one. And again, if it's, hold on. Let me do this. Another thing is, I don't know if you guys use the double escape, but you can always go back to previous, you can go back to previous steps of the process. And so and then if you want to if you spend a lot of time working on something, you can go back to a previous step of your state so that you have way less context consumed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it a checkpoint, like a cursor, where you go back to your previous, undo everything that you've just done?
It does not change any of the code. All you're doing is you're going back to context. Yes.
Oh.
So like what I'll do a lot of times is like I'll build up the context for this part of the code I'm working on, and then I'll do some changes. And then I'll say, all right, summarize the changes that you did, and it'll give me like a little text blurb. And I'll reverse back and then paste it in and be like, just add a little bit to it. And then you can build up the context once and then just work forever without hitting your context limits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
So this like harness that you have, all of the files that you have for both agents and subtasks, how often do you see yourself iterating? I mean, are you going back every day every way and trying to like continually or?
Yeah. No, I'm probably tweaking them a couple times a week. It's like pretty much if I run into something where it's like, this is going to be manual, or I'm going to have to manually figure all this, and then I'll be like, okay, let me take 20 minutes and tweak the prompt, or like I'm always fine tuning them. So it's very much a work in process.
Share your, man, just wanted to find your.
Yeah, let me show it. And I'd be happy to, I don't have it in a format that's easy to share, but I'd be happy to put it in, like clean it up and put it in the LangChain
Oh,
GitHub. But let me just show you real quick. Yeah, I have 2 code reviews commands. This one, this one specifically is the lightweight one, and it's looking for things like unused code, overly complex code, like overly nested structures, long functions that should be split, code duplication, because I want dry code, unclear naming, missing type hints, things like that. And then I have another one that's like a major code review that like I'll only run every once in a while, but it's doing like looking at security, performance impacts, integration points, and it spins up, multiple subagents, and it's like a beast of a thing. But I only do that, every once in a while because it's more of.
How come we keep in code review to the project? I don't do code review differently from project to project.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't actually have I would love to learn better ways of managing this, but what I actually do, all of these, if you'll notice the little arrow there, these are actually all symlink directories.
Okay, symlink them to your home directory.
Yeah, yes, essentially, yeah. And the only reason I'm using, because you could also put them in your home directory .claude.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. Yeah.
Have my user config, have my code review. We back. I do it once, we tweak them over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to switch back to that. Initially, I tried doing that, and I was referencing files within my project. So I just put them in the project because they were the commands were referencing files in the project. But I think I've cleaned that up. So I think what you described is a better way if you want shared universal commands. What you're describing is like you could put these commands in your project itself, but you can also put them in ~/.claude in like your home directory .claude, and then they're available to all your Claude instances, to all your projects. So
That's another if you're working with a team as well.
yeah, that's the other factor.
Maybe not team decide the syntax or. I don't know.
Yeah, but then I'll put it like in submodule, get submodule.
Yeah.
So we have, this is a shared, big for the team, for the project.
One of the
Yeah.
other things you can do is create dev containers, and in the
Yeah.
post create, in the startup and in the bootstraps, you can have all of those files automatically generated right into your container for you. So no matter what you're using, when you fire up that container, all of those files are already there and set up. And if you need to change them, then you just change your dev container. It'll also give you process isolation and not let Claude run rampant on the laptop too.
Yeah.
So this is just the last thing, and then I'll wrap it up. But one of the things I'll do, like if I have to do a bunch of front end changes, is I'll be like, hey, I've got this command that'll be like, hey, look at all the recent changes you made, put together a test plan, and then go test it in the UI and make sure it works. And you can see it's using a subagent. The reason I'm using a Playwright subagent is because for context preservation. That's the example I was talking about earlier, where it'll consume its own context. And oh, by the way, there's this new thing. They see that insight right there? They just added a new thing to Claude Code where you can have it like give you insights or teach you things they just added that today. Yeah. The learn. Yeah. There's like a learn mode. It'll teach you and give you assignments. So it can teach you. Anyway, that's total aside.
Love it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's it. I don't know.
Wow.
Thanks. Are we way beyond time, or
We're great on time, man.
we're good on time?
Yeah.
I can take more.
We're great. We got like 15 minutes before we can get out.
All right, we're good then. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. It's also something, I just want to make sure, right, but that's something you're using like no tools or like, yeah, allowed tools. What's that? Is that like the guardrail? Is that a, like,
Yeah.
how do you know which list? Is there like a list of tools you can use? Because I know simple stuff like rewrite. I'm just, those one as well.
Yeah, there is. I think they have it documented, but also whenever you're going through Claude and you're approving commands and you say like, I want to approve you to do this every single time, it'll throw something in your settings.json and you can see like how they name it, like web fetch is one right there where, and those are tools. I think they do have it in their document. So you could go look at their tools and everything else. It can sometimes be kind of tricky to figure out exactly what to call them, but for the agents, yeah, it's just, Oh, and when you're going through the agent workflow and you have it built, actually, this is a good way to go play with it and figure it out is when you tell it to make an agent for you, like I was showing earlier, it'll ask you what tools do you want to enable. And it'll give you categories of tools and you just select the categories and it'll drop them in there. That's probably the easiest way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Nate. Like, let's switch over